Hi Tony, it's great to see you again. It's always a pleasure talking to you. I get so many insights and the insider stories of manufacturing sector from you every time I get to speak to you. So welcome to this
Well,
episode. Um,
Raj, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. So I do have a couple of, questions that I wanted to talk to you about, just to understand the marketing sector better and also for the audiences to understand what are the, areas where you feel there are issues or there are gaps or, inefficiencies, how to identify them. So, you have spent a lifetime in manufacturing sector. I'd say about 25 years in Black& and Decker and
Yep.
8
Well,
plus
yep.
years in Xylem as well. So
That's right.
I'm not sure who would be a better person than you to clarify about, the gaps and the inefficiencies in the manufacturing sector. So you have seen the manufacturing sector when we had no automation at all. There were no tools, most processes were manual. Now we have automated machineries, we have mechanisms for inspections and monitoring. But how do you see the demand for faster production and higher consistency that has always been there since you've been working in this industry? How has this demand affected the industrial operations?
Yeah. I think listen, the demand has been there forever. I mean, the need for speed and quality is what I call the race that never ends. And it has a huge impact to operations. I mean, you can go back as far as the turn of last century with Henry Ford's Model T assembly, or even the advent of lean and just-in-time practices, after World War II. It's always been a need for speed and improved quality. And in the 60s, I guess, with the third industrial revolution, what people call the third industrial revolution, where we had microprocessors and computers that entered the scene, things like factory automation technologies, robotics, for instance, that can remove and augment the human element, both improve manufacturing consistency, and that drives quality, as well as the ability to be more flexible in your production. You started seeing global connectivity with advancements in, say, telecom and transportation logistics, and supply chain optimization software has also allowed for better planning. And then where we are today, with I guess what they call the fourth industrial revolution, which probably started 15 years or so ago. You have the internet of basically everything, right? It's all connected, everything's real time, and you have predictive maintenance. More devices and machines are kind of connected, and you have hard technologies like 3D printing, and which is allow us to change the design rules and prototyping speeds, advanced robotics and cobots, and of course the skill sets of all of the folks that work in operations today are much different than they were with their operational brethren 50 or 100 years ago. So, one might say that the demand for speed and consistency, has been and continues to be satisfied by advanced processes and technology. So it's been part of the history of operations, and I think it'll continue to be that way. And technology, you can look at technology really playing a key role in every step of the way there, trying to fulfill that priority.
Great. Also, could you highlight some supply chain inefficiencies that you have observed or have been, the biggest bottlenecks in the process? And what role does interconnectedness and data visibility play in reducing those inefficiencies, mostly in supply chain management?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think interconnectedness, and data visibility, it's absolutely meaningful and significant in a supply chain. You know, the fundamental precept in supply chain is flow. Everything you do in your power not to disrupt the flow. Consistent flow usually means better quality. It means better delivery performance. It allows you to be more cost effective. So, with visibility, reflective in your end-to-end supply chain, as long as it's actionable. Using this data, it can help aid in anticipating demand and avoiding overproduction. So predictive analytics can absolutely, help in that goal to even out the flow. You'd be able to manage inventory more effectively because you won't have as many stockouts or excess inventory. The interconnectedness, or what I call one version of the truth, can improve your coordination amongst your stakeholders. So now you have visibility with your suppliers and with your customers. It allows more collaborative planning. So the interconnectedness component and data, along with data visibility, I think allows that. And so it allows for actionable insights. So that allows and provides the ability for speed and decision making. So data that's not curated for action will be overload. We all have plenty of data to deal with, and we can connect disparate data. But as long as we don't curate it in a way that's actionable, it's not going to help us. So, visibility in data, interconnectedness really sets the foundation to help improve a large part of operational efficiency.
Sure. Tony, I do have an infographic open in front of me that shows me there have been about 16 fatal injuries in US alone in 2023 and 24. So what are the repercussions of unnoticed safety violations that lead to, I mean, of course, apart from fatalities, and what are the impacts, in terms of liabilities, downtime, and overall productivity in a premise?
Yeah, safety violations can have a sweeping impact on companies in many ways, and that's why in my prior company, um, safety was the most important piece. In fact, we started every meeting with a safety tip. We were trying to embed the culture that there's nothing more important than people being able to go to their workplace and come home just as they went, right? So safety is absolutely critical, and the implications from poor safety with regard to, for instance, liabilities, OSHA compliance penalties, litigation costs. Depending on the seriousness, it could be operational downtime because broken equipment or an investigation. Clearly, productivity is reduced, especially if if the person that's injured is a key employee and they're hard to replace. That's absolutely a potential issue. There's obvious financial costs. If you have a long history of hurting people, then workers' comp, medical expenses can start to mount up. But to me, there's two bigger ones that are often not necessarily front and center, and that's employee morale and reputational damage. So in the quest of talent, and I talk to many companies, and they're all undersupplied with good talent. When you have an environment where the operation isn't safe, you raise stress levels and you destroy trust with your employee base. And this leads to not being the employer of choice, which I think we all strive to be. And that creates a difficulty in attracting and retaining talent. So, it really is and has become table stakes for many companies, having a safe environment. But it's something that if you're not paying attention to it, and you don't have the right tools in place, and creating the right culture, it can have a pretty damaging impact to any company.
Yeah. So as I understand, there are reportables and there are recordables as per OSHA's guidelines, right? But there are so many violations and near misses that are not even recorded or reported. So what about those? How serious are the management about finding out what is happening behind the scenes? Something that has not been captured, that data nobody is even talking about.
Yeah, no, listen, I think there's absolutely recordables and there's incidences. And but if you really want to change behavior, I believe understanding things that are like what you call near misses are absolutely important. In fact, as you get into a safety program, near misses should go up. Your recording of near misses should actually increase, and that is going to really inform you about the thematically what's happening on your shop floor or your warehouse, and it allow you to take corrective action before an incident actually occurs because they are near misses. And as those near misses start to come down, you become even more vigilant and you find even more near misses. So you're basically raising the bar as time goes on. Um, Technology can really impact that because, you know, humans are subject to the human behavior. I mean, they can only see what they can see. They become fatigued. They're not looking everywhere. And so things like computer vision technology can have a significant impact where you have eyes everywhere all the time and you're recording this data continually. And you're using it in a very productive way, meaning not to blame, but really to learn and inform and help people become even, safer in the environment. So I think, having a program focused around near misses as one element is absolutely important. And that really is one of the fundamental components of changing the culture, because at the end of the day, you can't manage safety from the top. It has to be managed through everyone in the organization. So there's absolutely a place and a space for technology to take safety to the next level.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay, and how about a manual compliance monitoring? I'm sure there are so many inspections and monitorings that are going on manual basis. How are the processes? How do they look like? And if a premise plans to automate those tasks, what would be their expectations from a tool that promises real time analysis and monitoring of the situation? Is it about replacing the human? Is it about aiding the humans? And what are the expectations mostly,
Mhm.
Ramesh?
And you're speaking from the perspective of quality or safety?
Every type of compliance monitoring process,
Okay.
whether it is SOP
Oh,
compliance or a PPE compliance.
sure. Well, listen, I think in any manual process, you're going to have manual tools. Uh, in the quality area, maybe it's gauges or micrometers or, take measurements or visual inspection. You're going to have paper records and checklists. Perhaps there's spreadsheets that you're reporting non-conformance material or safety violations on, and you're manually compiling all of the information for audits or improvements. And with these manual processes, suffice it to say, they're going to likely lead to inconsistencies and mistakes related to each individual that's doing the job. That usually leads to delays in manual processing of the data and then feedback loops. So you're not really getting out in front of anything. It's really always looking in the rearview mirror. And data, because everyone is tracking it manually, um, data becomes, it's not centralized. So there's a lot of data silos that exist, which creates inaccuracies amongst data themselves. So you know, as I think about how you would prioritize automation solutions in a manual environment, um, you know, quality is very important, safety is very important. But if you can couple that with a business case that improves cost or competitiveness or reduces risk, um, in many companies, that's an easier business case to get approved. Because I think most people would agree that automation can help, absolutely, and it's a step forward. But like every company has many priorities they want to invest in, and so they tend to look at things that have the best payback. So if there's a way for you to um, bring forward automation that provides immediate real-time feedback, like sensors or cameras that are integrated within the production line, they can have productivity benefit as well as safety or quality improvement benefits. Um, any kind of tools that generate and consolidate quality data that can provide instant feedback so that you can actually make the corrections before failures get out of the factory. Um, and apply it, in a preventative way, that a proactive way, that would be helpful. I think any kind of artificial intelligence or machine learning that can gain access to data historically and allow you to plan preventative maintenance better, for instance, or maybe avoid safety hazards because you've seen this play out so many times before, right? So by catching defects or safety issues earlier, and maybe even before they occur, you can directly impact your safety record. You can directly impact a cost. And I think that being able, with all these investments, being able to um, quote unquote sell this within your organization as an investment that improves not only safety or quality, but also cost, I think also provides a higher likelihood that it's going to get through and get actioned on. I don't know, does that answer your question?
Pretty much, yeah. But if you could be more specific around, what kind of manual processes are more prone to errors or, yeah, are more susceptible. You've already mentioned a couple, but, a couple more if you could add to the list.
Yeah, so look, like every time you have a safety issue, you do manual safety inspections, and you'll review the accident, you'll document what happened, you'll try to define and understand what the root cause is, and then you'll put in place corrective action fixes, and that's typical for safety events. And you document this manually, all right, and you'll put it in a database somewhere. But it really doesn't get used after that. I mean, yes, there's institutional knowledge. Yes, you've codified a safety incident. But if you're able to digitize all of that safety, not only the incidents, but what happened on the near misses, if you're able to digitize that, now you have a database that can be, applied against machine learning, and you can learn that when certain instances occur, that this has been the likely outcome of that. And so if the likely outcome is not a good one, then you're going to change what you do there up front. And so by having, when you have manual data capture, it's hard to create something that can allow you to change the future. And so I think automation can really help with those feedback loops and preventative and predictive analytics that allow you to make changes into your future operation.
True, yeah, absolutely. This is very insightful. Yeah, this makes me think this data is not only being used for monitoring, but this can also be extensively used for training your workforce to do better, to avoid those near misses. Because you have something, concrete, those data points can be used. Apart from, safety and manufacturing processes, how about monitoring your personnel, employee productivity, and their yeah, how is that? I mean, I can only imagine what the scenario would be on a shop floor where the inspector is only moving around, observing everybody, pointing out if something is not being done right. But how long can those manual processes, how long can we rely on those processes, and how accurate are those in terms of defect detection or production timelines, accuracy, precision, operational costs? I mean, so many parameters that I can think of that cannot be accurately monitored manually, because there are factors like fatigue, like you mentioned. But I also think of human, our prejudice. Something that looks okay to me might not look okay to you. So, how is that judgment based inspection being done, and how is that even, successful?
Well, no, you're right. I mean, anything you leave up to a human, there's what they call a repeatability and reproducibility, gauge R&R. That is, that's a component that's lacking when you have individuals, right? They don't look at things the same way. They do have fatigue. They have a learning curve, right? That's something that they take breaks. I mean, all these things happen to humans that don't happen to in automated methods. But on a shop floor, manual methods for monitoring employee productivity, would rely on things like time tracking and output monitoring and, observational assessments, as you say, visual inspections, performance reviews, manual goal tracking. All these things are kind of part of uh, a manual contract. Employees clock in and out using time cards. Supervisors are trying to record output on spreadsheets, right? Um, Efficiency is assessed over periods of time. And so, as you can imagine, these methods are often inconsistent, as you suggested, subjective, as you also suggested, very prone to errors and learning curve. Um, and only after issues or productivity has occurred is when you get the data. So it lacks real-time visibility. It's always some sort of a delay. So automation addresses these by providing kind of real-time productivity tracking through things like wearables or integrated software that manages and tracks your progress. Data is collected automatically through these sensors and these wearables and computer vision, and can be reported on and the data can be curated in a way where it's actionable, all real time or near real time, so that you can lead to faster decision making. Okay. And because you've captured all this data, you can now apply machine learning and put in place predictive analytics. So you can forecast productivity trends, that would allow for maybe proactive adjustments. Again, if you're going through a situation that you've been through before, that has led to disruptive or inefficient operations, you can change that. You have the ability to actually alter the future, if you will. And there's gamification and things like that that's taking place these days that are also helping with um, not only performance tracking modeling, but also associated training programs, as you pointed out. So automation, significant, as I mentioned as we open, has been and will continue to be an incredible impact to operations in areas of efficiency and productivity and reducing areas, streamlining processes, et cetera, et cetera. So it's absolutely a critical component to moving from manually based operations to automated based operations.
So not just in employee productivity, but also in automating your quality control and monitoring.
Yes,
Interesting.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So beyond industrial applications that we discussed so far, how do you envision computer vision or other emerging AI technologies transforming retail sector?
Um, I think computer vision technology has application everywhere. We've talked about industrial settings here. Retail environment, has such a raw customer touch, right? You're touching the actual customer, that anything that goes towards personalizing that experience with them, will be a game changer. And there's a lot of examples where it's applied today. But curating a customer experience through data, let's say, for instance, customer dwell time, foot flow. If you're in a theme park and you're looking to have lunch, for instance, wouldn't it be great if on your phone you could tell what the queue length is from each different restaurant within the theme park, and you could go there instead of going and waiting, an hour with three screaming children, right? That's going to be a productivity improvement and improve the customer experience. Consider a very busy hotel check-in process, say, for instance, in Las Vegas, where thousands and thousands and thousands of people go every day. Being able to understand your peaks and valleys of volume checking in at any point in time, that'll allow you to staff up appropriately. Again, reducing your wait time and improving the customer experience. I think, one of the bigger um, items that you will hear if you listen to earnings calls of major retailers over the last 5 years is theft, and shrinkage of their inventory, but really due to theft. It's something you really didn't hear about prior to that, but you're hearing more and more about it as actually having impacts. So, having computer vision technology in there to monitor this and prevent it and reduce it is absolutely going to, pay back in spades for any kind of a retail environment. So those are just a few examples um, where computer vision technology, automation can have significant impacts in the retail sector.
Makes absolute sense. I mean, I picked up retail because manufacturing and industrial setups are totally opposite from what you expect in a retail sector. Um, yeah, I just wanted to contrast the usabilities and experiences. This was great, Tony. Very insightful, very helpful. I really hope the audiences also find this information useful. And but we will catch up again next week and talk about certain use cases more in detail.
Great. I look forward to it. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you so much.